Pedro Pascal is losing his mind, alright? We all know that, yes, the Fantastic Four, it does need a specific target margin to actually become a success at the box office. That is the ultimate truth, right?
To be safe and to be protected, and I want very much to live on the right side of history.
I too want to be on the right side of history, and I have a feeling the right side of history is going to be on whatever side is the opposite of Pedro Pascal.
With Pedro Pascal making some of the worst decisions during the press tour for Fantastic Four, one major development going on now involves how he yet again attacked fans and said some of the most offensive things yet toward Marvel fans.
Much dislike and mockery were two primary videos. One of Pedro and his Fantastic Four co-star Vanessa Kirby touching him affectionately in a series of clips.
Terrible confession to make in front of Gordon.
It's because some of the best men in the world, so they don't count.
I won't do this shit anymore. That's the quote echoing through Hollywood right now, and it's reportedly coming from none other than Pedro Pascal. After the Fantastic Four box office disaster, rumors are swirling that Pascal has finally had enough, and he's cutting ties with Disney for good. This isn't just another actor walking away from a role. It's the possible collapse of one of Marvel's last remaining lifelines. And it gets worse.
Oh, it tanked in the second weekend, just like we thought. And not because it's a matter of Fantastic Four being good, bad, or otherwise. It's about everything that led up to this being relatively bad and uninteresting to audiences. This is all about the actual box office performance of Marvel in the last 4 to 5 years. You could almost set your watch by it.
Insiders claim that multiple future projects tied to Pascal have quietly been shelved, with Disney scrambling behind the scenes to manage the fallout. Think about that. Just months ago, Pedro Pascal was being called the face of the new Marvel era. Now, it looks like that era might be dead on arrival. But how did it get to this point? Why is one of Hollywood's most in-demand actors walking away from the world's biggest studio? And what does this mean for Marvel, for Disney, and for the future of superhero films altogether?
That at first glance isn't too bad, but there's plenty of lingering shots, and the longer it lingers, the more you're like, that's a little bit unsettling, that's a little weird. But even like a Galactus's face, it did not have the same realism of, say, a Thanos.
Isn't just about one movie flopping. It's a symptom of a much bigger problem, one the studios don't want you to notice. Because behind the glossy trailers, fan service, and billion-dollar budgets, the entire comic book movie machine might finally be grinding to a halt. Let's break down the truth behind the Fantastic Four disaster, the shocking rumors surrounding Pedro Pascal, and why some insiders are now saying Marvel may not survive the next year. The numbers don't lie. And for Fantastic Four, they're absolutely brutal.
So here's the piece from Deadline magazine. Fantastic Four first steps, $40 million second frame. Just to remind you, it wasn't even a week ago that Deadline magazine was projecting a $48 million second weekend, a 60% drop from the first weekend. And then over the next few days after that, it became a 45 to 47 million.
In just its second weekend, the film plummeted with a 66% drop, a collapse so sharp, it now sits alongside some of Marvel's worst performing flops, including Thunderbolts and Captain America: Brave New World. To make it even more painful, Friday to Saturday alone saw an 80% nosedive, a catastrophic stat that's rare even for the most poorly received blockbusters. At face value, the raw numbers don't sound disastrous, but once you break them down, it becomes click. This wasn't just a stumble, it was a faceplant. By the end of its second weekend, Fantastic Four had barely scraped past $198 million globally, a shocking underperformance for a film that reportedly cost north of $250 million to make.
Go on leading into the actual thing that they are trying to project. It means that trend line is probably going to continue. If it's fallen that much, from 48 million on Monday to 40 million today, chances are that the actual weekend numbers domestically for Fantastic Four are going to come in under $40 million.
For context, even the troubled Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania had a stronger trajectory, and that movie was widely mocked. But the real red flag? Nobody's coming back. Theaters were full on opening night, then almost completely empty by week 2. The hype burned out instantly. Marvel's audience has gone from loyal to lukewarm. The brand used to guarantee a hit. Now, even its legacy titles can't hold attention. And Fantastic Four was supposed to be the reboot that reignited everything. Instead, it just might have lit the match that burned the house down. Here's the disturbing pattern. Marvel movies still open big, but they collapse just as fast. Fantastic Four pulled in curious fans during its first weekend, but by the following Friday, theaters nearly empty. Why? Because no one's coming back.
But a lot of it's just for plot elements. In order for certain things to work, it requires that Galactus not do really obvious things. The way that they're trying to come up with plans and schemes to defeat Galactus gets pretty sci-fi mumbo-jumbo and strains believability.
That's called a front-loaded release, when all the hype gets packed into the first few days, and then the buzz dies instantly. This isn't just a one-off failure. It's becoming the new normal for Marvel. And it's not just Fantastic Four. Captain America: Brave New World dropped 68% in its second weekend. Thunderbolts fell 56%. Even so-called fan-favorite titles are losing momentum fast. People show up once, out of habit or curiosity, but they're not invested, they're not excited, and most importantly, they're not recommending these movies to anyone else. Repeat viewings used to be Marvel's secret weapon. Fans would return 3, 4, even 5 times to catch every Easter egg. But that loyalty, it's gone. Now, audiences walk out and say, "Yeah, I'm good." Some industry insiders are saying it outright. The era of billion-dollar superhero movies might be over, unless it's Spider-Man or Batman. The magic is fading, and Marvel's fear is becoming reality, that their movies don't stick anymore. But the deeper question is why? And the answer? It starts with money. Way too much of it. At some point, Hollywood forgot how to spend responsibly, and now it's catching up with them, fast. Fantastic Four reportedly cost over $250 million to produce. Add in global marketing and distribution, and you're looking at a break-even point near $500 million. For a franchise that's flopped more than once before, that's a reckless bet. And it's not just Marvel. Even The Naked Gun, a comedy with zero VFX and a relatively modest cast, somehow racked up a $45 million budget. Why? No one can say for sure. And that's the problem. Studios are greenlighting bloated budgets as if audiences are still showing up like it's 2019. But today's viewers are pickier, more cautious, and far less loyal. The idea that if you build it, they will come doesn't hold anymore. Marvel used to be a license to print money. Now, high-stakes gamble, and studios are losing badly. Every box office bomb creates more pressure. Every over-budget film makes the next project harder to justify. And eventually, even big names like Pedro Pascal start asking the obvious question, why am I signing up for this? Until studios slash their budgets and recalibrate expectations, they're just throwing money into a fire. And that fire is getting hotter, especially behind the scenes at Marvel. It's not just the box office numbers that are ugly. It's what's happening inside Marvel that's truly alarming. Behind closed doors, Marvel Studios is reportedly in disarray. Creative teams are clashing, executives are getting replaced, and fans are noticing the fallout. One of the most telling signs? A leaked story about X-Men 97, and it's more revealing than it seems. According to insider reports, Marvel's VP of Animation dismissed key elements from the adventures of Cyclops and Phoenix, a beloved comic storyline, referring to character names like Slim and Red as random and unnecessary. For fans, it was a clear signal. The people in charge don't understand, or worse, don't respect the source material. It might sound like a small detail, but it reflects a much bigger issue. Marvel isn't being guided by passionate creatives anymore. It's being steered by corporate execs who treat decades of lore like outdated baggage. This disconnect is bleeding into the final product. Movies feel hollow, scripts feel mechanical, and longtime fans are walking away. And the result? Talented stars like Pedro Pascal, once seen as Marvel's future, are reportedly rethinking everything. When the leadership doesn't get the vision, even the biggest names don't stick around. Marvel's internal chaos isn't just causing bad press. It's pushing people out, from fans to filmmakers. There was a time when the words Marvel Studios guaranteed a packed theater. Now, that brand doesn't carry the weight it used to, not even close. Fantastic Four should have been a huge comeback. It's one of Marvel's oldest teams, rich with history, and yet, audiences barely showed up. Why? Because Marvel itself spent years undermining the brand. Back when Fox owned the movie rights, Marvel deliberately pulled Fantastic Four comics off the shelves. Merchandise disappeared. They didn't want to promote characters they didn't control, even if it meant burning bridges with fans. That move wasn't just petty, it was damaging. The result? An entire generation grew up without a connection to the Fantastic Four. Now, when Marvel finally tries to bring them back, there's no emotional investment, no nostalgia, just another overhyped release that fails to deliver. And it's not just this franchise. Even Superman, one of the most iconic names in pop culture, is struggling at the box office. International numbers are weak. Domestic interest is fading. This isn't about one bad film. It's about brand fatigue. Years of misfires, mixed messages, and half-baked reboots have left audiences numb. Marvel used to feel like an event. Now, it feels like background noise. And when the brand loses trust, even star power and special effects can't save it. With Marvel's house on fire, there's only one name fans still rally around: Spider-Man. Even as flop after flop hits the box office, the upcoming Spider-Man project is the one thing still generating real excitement. Leaked images of the new suit, a bold, comic-accurate design, went viral within minutes. Fans actually liked what they saw. That alone feels rare. Add to that the return of the Punisher, the introduction of Scorpion, and rumors swirling about intense, darker storylines. And suddenly, this isn't just another Marvel release. It feels like a lifeline. But here's the problem. Marvel doesn't fully own Spider-Man. Sony does. And if Marvel wants Peter Parker front and center in Secret Wars or Doomsday, they'll need permission. And Sony knows it. Without Spider-Man, those are missing the one character who still sells tickets on name alone. And even if the next Spidey film crushes the box office, it doesn't mean Marvel's back. It just proves what fans already know. Spider-Man succeeds in spite of Marvel's mess, not because of it. If Spider-Man is the only character left that can carry $1 billion film, what does that say about the rest of the MCU? The truth is hard to ignore. Marvel's not building new icons anymore. They're surviving off the last one they haven't ruined. It sounds harsh, but more and more voices are saying it out loud. Maybe superhero movies need to die, at least for a while. The fatigue isn't just in the numbers, it's in the culture. Audiences aren't talking about these films the way they used to. There's no buzz, no anticipation, no sense of wonder. It's just one CG-heavy, formula-driven release after another. And people are tired, even with massive crossovers on the horizon, like Secret Wars and Doomsday. There's guarantee of success. In fact, many believe they're doomed to underperform, especially if Marvel can't lock in Spider-Man. Without that anchor, these movies risk being more of the same, bloated, overhyped, and forgettable. And let's not pretend this decline came out of nowhere. Years of rushed productions, studio interference, preachy writing, and tone-deaf decisions have chipped away at the genre's credibility. The golden era is over. What's left is a bloated machine running on fumes. Some industry analysts now believe the smartest move would be to pause, step away, let the genre rest, give audiences time to miss it again. Because right now, it feels like superhero films are being force-fed to people who just aren't hungry anymore. And if Marvel keeps pushing forward without resetting, they may destroy what little goodwill is left. While superheroes stumble, something unexpected is creeping back into theaters. Comedy. The Naked Gun reboot isn't just getting laughs, it's getting people talking. Critics called it non-stop funny, packed with so many rapid-fire jokes you miss some while laughing at others. It's not perfect, but it reminded audiences of something they've been missing. Fun. Sure, it had a bloated $45 million budget, a head-scratcher for a comedy, but it might actually make its money back. Why? Because word of mouth is strong, and people are craving something light, fresh, and genuinely entertaining. For years, comedy was pushed to the sidelines, while superhero fatigue set in. Now, it might be the genre that brings moviegoers back, not because it's flashy, not because it's part of a cinematic universe, but because it makes people laugh. And right now, that might be the most powerful superpower in Hollywood. So here we are. Marvel's golden age is behind us. Pedro Pascal might be walking away, and fans are starting to ask the unthinkable. Is it over? Maybe it's not just a phase. Maybe the superhero genre isn't evolving, it's collapsing. Maybe that's okay, because when the biggest stars start backing out, when billion-dollar franchises can't even break even, and when audiences stop caring, the message is clear. Something has to change. The question now isn't whether Marvel can bounce back. It's whether they should, or if this entire genre needs time to reset, rethink, and earn its place again. In the meantime, maybe it's comedy's turn, or horror, or something new entirely. But one thing's for sure. Whatever comes next, it won't be business as usual, because fans are done settling for less. And Hollywood's finally being forced to listen. Please.